Hello and welcome to ePlubsum's Fireside Chats. Not as FDRs, but hey, it's something. Donate to the Patreon, boys. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's get right into the news. First, we're going to be talking about an update from Mexico. The judicial reform has passed, but it wasn't like a 100% shoo-in. It was kind of, but not really. So basically what ended up happening is, after it passed the Chamber of Deputies, it moved on to the Senate. And what ended up happening is that many of the right-wing justices, not justices, but like many of the right-wing senators began to openly protest, and many protesters came into the chamber to literally protest this bill being made. Although what was interesting was the fact that the bill was guaranteed to pass. They were basically just filibustering the bill. Opposition figures were like really just openly they did not like this bill being introduced at all. It was just absolutely not in, like they did not want to do it. And it basically just gave time for like Morena senators to like give big speeches supporting the bill, and many, like, because I actually did, like, someone on my Discord server, they literally like posted like a link to like the proceedings, and I didn't know what was going on because I don't speak Spanish, but it was pretty obvious, like, just like opposition senators were giving speeches about like, oh, this is bad, this is blah blah blah, whatever, and then pro Morena figures and Morena politicians were just openly being like, yes, this is good, this is great. Like, for the Morena politicians, I would really only get like every other word, like they would say like something like blah 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 people, blah 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 reform, blah 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 like right wing, blah 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 authoritarian, long live Mexico, like, you know. But they were like impassioned about their speeches, and they were like very openly ready for this. One thing that I found funny about the proceedings was the fact that this was, I think, the first bill where Gerardo Fernandez Noroña was started with his new job, where he's like basically the leader of the Senate now. For those who don't know, he is a very prominent left-wing politician in Mexico who's basically kind of been like a little bit of an outsider in regards to the Mexican politics. Like, mainstream Mexican left-wing politics is mostly based up around the PRI or Morena, and he was kind of like just like a little bit out there, like just like a little bit outside of the reach. Like, when he was in the PRD, he was like one of the fringe members of the PRD, and then he ended up becoming like pretty fringe regardless. Like, he joined PT, and like he even went so far as to try and propose like the idea that he should run for president in 2018 under his own political party. That didn't end up working out. But now he's a member of Morena and is now the leader of the Senate. And it was funny because he was trying to keep order in the Senate chamber when Noroña is very well known for like being a politician that doesn't really like do the order and like civility politics type of thing. He's kind of like known for like being like a brash and like abrasive type guy. So it was funny literally just seeing him be like, we will have order in this chamber. But this seemingly was the last obstacle, and now Morena will be able to move forward with their judicial reforms to allow justices to be elected positions, which is a good thing. Ultimately, I'm in favor of that. Anyway, speaking of things I'm in favor of, Alberto Fujimori is dead. For those who don't know, Alberto Fujimori was the former president of Peru, who literally, like, okay, so basically, to divulge a lot of information about Alberto Fujimori would be crazy. One of the big things that you need to understand is that he is a far-right authoritarian despot. Like, just blatantly far-right authoritarian despot. And one of the most famous things about him was the fact that during his administration as president, he literally called a state of emergency and then declared that he would he would temporarily seize control of the Peruvian government, which has basically led to him to be a de facto dictator in Peru. And he would commit mass voter fraud in 2000 when he ran for re-election, and would commit massive amounts of human rights abuses, including but not limited to forced sterilizations. And one of the reasons why he did this is that he was trying to control a far-left communist group called the Shining Path, a far-left revolutionary socialist communist group that literally just tried to like overthrow him because of how authoritarian despotic he was, but in turn they themselves also became authoritarian despots. These things were so bad that he would end up fleeing to Japan, which is his home country, because, in case the name hasn't picked it up, he is of Japanese descent, because he is like son of Japanese immigrants to Peru. He would be extradited to Peru in 2005. He was tried and convicted on basically all the charges that of all the bad things that he did during his administration. But then, in 2023, Alberto Fujimori, in a very controversial court decision, they released him. And his release led to a very bad thing, because when he was released, he made the stunning announcement that he would actually seek the presidential election again. And yeah, it was very bad that this guy was literally going to try and run for president again, because Alberto Fujimori, as I stated before, is literally a far-right authoritarian despot. One thing I should mention that is funny on two fronts for both Americans and leftists. Okay, so if you know anything about this, if you know anything, here's the funny thing. He died on 9/11. You see, automatically hilarious. Everybody's laughing and lolling at the funniness of haha, he died on 9/11. But there's actually another reason why him dying on 9/11 is actually funny. You see, Anibal Guzman, I think his name is a nickname is Gonzalo. Him, the leader of the Shining Path, also died on 9/11. Died on 9/11 3 years before Alberto Fujimori. Those are two. Again, it's kind of funny, just those two very notorious rivals would actually end up dying on literally the same day, but not the exact same day. It's not like John Adams versus Thomas Jefferson dying on literally the same day. And with this time, I guess I should actually divulge a little bit about the the presidential elections of Peru, because Peru will be holding presidential elections at some point in the future. How soon in the future? I don't know. Currently, the results say. Currently, the most current, number that we have now is that they will have their elections by 2026. That's all we know. It's, I think it's at this point scheduled. Okay, it says here it's scheduled on April 12th, 2026. They can technically hold it earlier, but they're probably not going to. And in order to be a member, to run in this election, basically we have names that are kind of announcing, because you know how this works. In Latin American countries, a lot of times they do pre-candidacies rather than doing formal actual candidacies. And there are a decent number of people who are interested in running for the office. I could name a lot of them. One of them is very interesting, Francisco Sagasti, who's the former president. Peru Libre, which is the party of Pedro Castillo, the guy who tried to also do a self-coup, is currently thinking of nominating one of their leaders, Vladimir Cerrón. There's also another thing that's funny, because apparently 2 members of the Pedro Castillo cabinet are interested in, or I don't know, how many? Is this guy also, I'm just checking this, is this guy also a member of the Pedro Castillo cabinet? Yeah, 3 different members of Pedro Castillo's cabinets are actually interested in seeking the presidency as well. 2 of them are former prime ministers. Guido Bellido, the guy who was the first PM that Pedro Castillo wanted to have, who was thrown out because he expressed sympathy to the Shining Path, or at least sympathetic to the people who joined the Shining Path. And Anibal Torres, the guy who, I think this was the guy who said that he supported Hitler. But there are a lot of other people who are very interested in seeking the nomination. Veronica Mendoza is the current one that I think is very interesting, because she's probably the best candidate of them all. But unfortunately, she's probably not going to win. And the one big worry is the fact that one of the people who is interested in running is a man by the name of Arturo Humala, the brother of a former president, Oscar, what's his name? Ollanta Humala. And he is basically running under a party that, as the name said, the name of his party is literally Anaturo, and it is an ethno-catharsis party, which is basically indigenous fascism, which is not a good sign. But maybe we'll learn more about it at some point in the future when I inevitably get to talk about it. If I'm still doing this stuff by then, Patreon. Anyways, next story. It's the story of a guy who set himself on fire in front of the Israeli consulate in Boston. And it is to protest the Gaza genocide. Now, this guy, he has, his name, according to from all the sources that I've seen, this could be completely wrong. It's probably not wrong. But according to it, most sources have already kind of concluded this is it, is that the person who did it is a man by the name of Matt Nelson. And according to him, it's basically the same thing. Like it's the same thing as when Aaron Bushnell did it. Except this guy is like one of the things that a lot of people learn is that this guy, Matt Nelson, is also politically active. He has posted many things online, and basically, as far as I can tell, most of them were kind of just focused on like the Gaza issue. One thing that I did see, I don't know if this has like been confirmed, but there's one thing I did see that probably explains this a bit more, which isn't purely about the Gaza issue. Yes, it's clearly a pressing issue, but I've seen some things that also indicate that Matt Nelson's private life might have also indicated like reasons for him to do this. So I've seen some people say like, oh, he was also homeless at the time. He was living in his car and his car burned down, I think, and that his girlfriend recently left him. I don't know. Again, could be completely wrong. None of that could be true. This guy might even be the guy who did it. But we're working on the assumption that it is. Because I've seen a lot of sources that do say that it's him. But I'm just saying that to like kind of explain the broader sense. Like, because that's the thing that a lot of people really don't seem to kind of grasp. It's like, yeah, to be fair, normal people don't set themselves on fire in front of the fucking, like, Israeli consulate. That's just the truth. And it's the same thing that kind of was used against Aaron Bushnell, where it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, was he mentally ill? It's like, no. The guy decided to burn himself for fun, for shits and giggles. It's like, of course he was. What do you think does that negate what he did and why he did it? Not necessarily. Much in the same way, it's like, oh, other things in this guy's life made it so that it was like, yeah, it just adds a broader picture to the analysis of why he did it. It doesn't, like, magically make what he did, like, not worth it for some reason. I'm a bit rambly at the moment, but, like, let's just move on to the next story because there's not much else I can really say about it. It's like, yeah, it stinks that he felt the need to do this, and hopefully we have a society that people don't feel the need to do this anymore. But the next story is actually one that kind of ties into the last podcast because it's a Star Wars related story, but it's actually also somewhat politically related, kind of, sort of, but not really. So Disney is being sued for using Peter Cushing's face in Rogue One. For some explanations, Disney is a big company that owns a lot of media franchises, including Star Wars. Rogue One is a Star Wars spin-off film, and Peter Cushing is the guy who played Grand Moff Tarkin in Episode 4. And what ended up happening is that due to this film being a prequel to the film, like due to this film being a prequel to the episode 4, A New Hope, Grand Moff Tarkin is in this movie. And I think it was one of the earliest times that CGI was used to revive a dead actor. At least in a actual theatrical film, like, kind of. There have been some elements of this in the past, but a lot of the really earlier ones are really, really rough. Like, if I remember correctly, The Sopranos did this as well, where, like, they had an actress who sadly passed away before the, like, finale happened, so they basically used old footage of her and, like, used CGI to put her face on the body of an actress who's, like, a double, and it really does not look good. And this one was kind of also not good. It was one of the earliest times that it was used on like a big theatrical like run, and a lot of people just did not like it. Especially considering it was used so frequently, because for some reason, they decided to have him be a main character in the movie, or at least a central character in the movie. I don't know, I haven't seen it. I didn't really care about Rogue One when it came out, but now that I'm watching Andor, I'm going to watch it after Andor is finished. But what is happening is that a friend of Peter Cushing, named Kevin Francis, decided to sue Lucasfilm because he stated that, according to him and Peter Cushing had made an agreement long ago, before Peter Cushing died, that said that if Cushing died, they would have, anybody who wanted to use his likeness in any future projects would have to ask Kevin. And Lucasfilm and Disney tried to get this thrown out, just being like, dude, the dude is clearly just interested in money, but the UK is actually moving forward with the case, which indicates there's something there that they can use. And it's a very interesting development, and I would be very curious to see how this case goes, because this has been a hotly debated topic for a while. The idea of using like CGI and like all this stuff to continue using actors' legacies and stuff, which Disney themselves have used a lot. One of the more common things nowadays that we've seen is that Disney is literally scanning all their actors' heads 360 degrees just so they can continue to use that actor's likeness long after they need them. It's like in the contracts of a lot of Disney actors and like Marvel and like Star Wars actors now. Like Luke was used as a way to like they used like CGI to bring Luke back to being young, which coincides with other issues regarding deep fake technology and the like, which is definitely very troubling in the modern day, which a lot of people are like, there's not really seeing a lot of benefits with this. And as a very recent thing, like with James Earl Jones, who recently passed away, like very ironic thing that happened, I posted my Star Wars episode, and literally the day I posted, James Earl Jones fucking passes away, and it's like, well, that sure stinks. But like, right before he died, he literally had to sign off his Darth Vader voice to be used by Disney. The use of AI like this is going to be even more precedent, not only with the reviving of actors' faces, but like also with their voices. We're seeing the rise of like AI voices being used for a lot of things, and it's getting to the point where it's like, yeah, when you have a character that has a really iconic voice, why bother hiring a actual living actor when you can just bring back their voice? Like, I mean, James Earl Jones, he literally had to sign off his voice to be used in, like, I think the Kenobi show. That was what it is. He had to sign it off to use in the Kenobi show, where it's like, or if I remember, I don't remember which one it was. It was either, I forget if it was, like, Kenobi, which was the last one that had his voice, or if it was Kenobi that was the first one that didn't use his voice. Yeah, I just checked. They used a AI regenerative program for that series, and basically just signed off on his, like, that. And what's weird is that when I looked it up, and then I looked up James Earl Jones on Google, one of the first articles was literally like, what is the future of Darth Vader in Star Wars? Like, they're going to keep using him. Like, he had no future. After Kenobi came out, he retired because they used his voice that way. And the same thing goes for like other actors. Like, for example, Tom Kenny. Tom Kenny is one of the most well-known voice actors in the world. And he's kind of given up a voice. Do you not, like, guys, you do know that Nickelodeon owns the SpongeBob voice, right? Tom Kenny does not own that voice. Tom Kenny literally stole that voice from a little person that he saw. And now Nickelodeon owns that voice. He can't use that voice for anything that isn't a Nickelodeon sanctioned product. And I know this because I've seen some like things where like he like does like interviews with like people, and then like they tell him like do the SpongeBob voice, and he doesn't do this SpongeBob voice. There are a lot of times where he'll do a voice that sounds similar to the SpongeBob voice, but it's not the SpongeBob voice. Now that could just be me like being a little bit paranoid and like trying to like nitpick the voice, but the problem is it? I don't know, because again, he doesn't own the SpongeBob voice. The SpongeBob voice is owned by Nickelodeon. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's move on to the main topic of this video. This is a presidential debate that nobody really knew if this was going to happen. Like, people thought this was going to happen like next time in 2028. But nah, it ended up happening this time because of all these different things that happen behind the scenes. So this one is interesting because this is the first debate breakdown or whatever that I've done in a while. I don't think I have done a debate breakdown since like 2020, because like, didn't they only have one debate in 2020? I forget. When it was Biden v. Trump that time, that was the last time I did a debate breakdown, because, I mean, if you don't remember, I used to do debate breakdowns a decent bit. I did debate breakdowns for at least a majority of the Democratic primary debates. And I gave my thoughts on all of them, and then I ended up doing it for the general election as well. And I did one one for the first Republican debate, and I didn't really care that much. No, actually, wait, yeah, I did a debate breakdown of the 2024 Republican primary debate. I forgot about that. But I didn't do one of the first 2024 general election debate because I didn't really see a point. Because it wasn't like the debate was going to change my mind. It wasn't like the debate, I knew what the debate was going in, what it was going to be before I went in. I didn't even watch it. I didn't care. I didn't care about the debate. It wasn't until halfway through the debate where people were like groaning and pissing themselves. I was like, wait, hold on. Then I watched like one question, and it was just the Israel-Palestine question, and I just didn't really care after that. It's like, okay, I heard what I heard. It's like, yeah, I didn't expect anything. I didn't expect Biden to do anything like big and phenomenal. I didn't expect Trump to do anything big and phenomenal either, because I don't like either of them. they're both capitalist style pigs, but sure enough. And then I watched some clips of the debate after the fact, and it's like, yeah, that is definitely a thing that happened. I was like, yeah, and I'm just not going to do a debate breakdown. And then the Democrats changed the nominees, and now there was a reason to do a debate breakdown. There was a reason to actually watch the debate. Because, like, holy shit, a candidate's not, like, old and dying of dementia? Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? Now, instead of two of them, we can only have one of the people like that. That's crazy. Now, I didn't expect much, because, again, I didn't really like Kamala Harris. Like, I think I covered, like, during the 2020 debates, I didn't really care a lot about Kamala, like, a lot. Like, I mean, I don't remember if she did well during the debates, because I don't think I ever gave her, like a win. I don't think I ever gave her, like, a loss. I think I gave her, like, she was, like, basically mid during the debates during 2020. The only things I remembered about Kamala during the 2020 debates was, like, during one part where Tulsi Gabbard, quote-unquote, like, gave her shit and, like, basically, quote-unquote, ended her career when it didn't. I don't think it necessarily panned out that way. And also the time where she, like, confronted Joe Biden. Those are the only two things I kind of remember of those debates, because I was really more focused on, like, Bernie's performance in the debates and, like, breakout performances like Andrew Yang. But really, it was basically just, I just didn't expect her to do, like, necessarily, I didn't expect her to, like, I guess I should just say, I expected her to do good, but purely because of the fact that her opponent is just absolute, like, drivel nonsense garbage. In fact, I paid so little attention to how this debate went, I was actually kind of surprised at the debate format, where it literally was just Kamala and Trump debating in a room empty, no people. I think that was how the 2020 debate was, but that was purely because of COVID, I think. But I think they had a limited audience, I don't remember. One more thing I'll say before I actually get into talking a little bit about the debate itself is just the fact that I was actually doing this while I was editing, because I don't know why, I just wasn't doing so hot, and I was, like, not really in the recent video that I made, the American Labor Party video. It was taking a little bit longer for me to finish, and I guess demotivation or whatever, and it was just like I was really crunching it up to that last minute to get that episode came out. So unfortunately, I didn't even get to, like, do a live reaction to the debates like I did with the 2024 Republican debate, free on Patreon. Well, not free, money, but yeah, like, I was genuinely interested in seeing, like, how this went, especially considering it seems like this might be the last debate we get. The same thing happened in 2020, right? I'm not misremembering it, right? There was only one debate in 2020, if I remember correctly, because, like, during the debate that happened, like, there was a lot of, like the moderator was, like, trying to call Trump out for, like, being, like, just due to being him, like, being fucking stupid and ugly and stupid. And he wouldn't have it, so then he just, like, cried and pissed himself about, like, they're being unfair to me. And then just didn't come out of his, like, cave until, like, he tried to say that the election was rigged against him. Because how everything is, because Trump can't understand the concept of nobody likes him, so he thinks everything's rigged against him. And the first thing, like, in fact, funnily enough, the first thing that kind of showed to me how the debate was kind of going to go was when literally right at the beginning, Kamala walks out, so does Trump. And then Trump immediately goes to his podium, but then Kamala goes to him for a handshake. I didn't quite hear what he said, but then I heard the hot mic be like he said something to her, and it's like I think all I heard was, "Hey, Kamala," and then I learned after the fact that he said, "Hey, Kamala, let's have a good debate." And that kind of immediately showed, like, that's interesting. The fact that she was the one to initiate the handshake, and, like, the fact that he wasn't interested in it. And another thing that kind of shows that was, like, kind of like the way they interacted with each other. With most people pointing out this fact that Trump basically purely faced directly to the camera the entire time of the debate. Meanwhile, Kamala was turning to Trump, trying to interact with Trump and everything, but he wasn't having it. He didn't do anything of the sort to her. Which, again, kind of shows the difference between the two. One thing for me that was very interesting was when they're doing the introductions and stuff, and they're like, we did the coin flip, because, like, you know, what they always do is that they do a coin flip, and then they have the president candidate who wins the coin flip, like, do you want the first opening statement, or do you want the last closing statement? And then Trump said, and it was a bit shocking to me, personally that I was like, and he chose to have the last statement. It's like, huh? I was confused. I was like, huh? He must be planning something. He must be planning something big for that. Like, he would either, like, announce a policy plan or, like, something. Like, he would announce something, or he, like, gonna say, like, he was gonna try and do, like, a big motif or something like that. And then, like, if I remember correctly, the first thing that he said was about just immigration and, like, just completely fucking, like, tarnishing everything. And he's like, the first thing that he said was about black jobs, Venezuelan running hotels, and mental asylum. Like, he did all of the mistakes and all of the big fucking stupid things at the beginning of the debate. And it was like, yeah, this is kind of telling about who he is. That the first thing that he does is he's trying to make the claim that immigrants are stealing quote unquote black jobs, which isn't true. How Venezuelans were running hotels, like how Venezuelan gangs were coming to the United States and like taking over hotels, which isn't true. And how, this is the one thing, just seeing this shenanigan, like just seeing this happen, it was so fucking crazy, so surreal that I had to like watch the entirety of this unfold. Like, all I knew was, here's what, like, for those who don't understand what this last part is, let me explain. So, Donald Trump, during a lot of his rallies, a lot of people point out this weird fact that during a lot of his 2024 rallies, Donald Trump kept referring to Hannibal Lecter. He kept saying, like, Hannibal Lecter, Hannibal Lecter, Hannibal Lecter. Like, he kept talking about Hannibal Lecter. For those who don't know, Hannibal Lecter is a, like, well-known crazy person from a film called Silence of the Lambs. He's a cannibal, and he's, like, insane. He's, like, a well-known, like, psychopath in film. He's been parodied in a lot of media. You know, he's infamous for the phrase, "Hello, Clarice." The concept of a character in a straitjacket tied to a gurney. Not a gurney, like a jack. What's it called? Like a jack? You know what I'm talking about. Where you move, like, paint cans with, like, a thing over his mouth. Like, it's a really well-known thing. But he kept talking about Hannibal Lecter when he was talking about things like immigration. And it was so confusing. Everyone was just so confused. Every time immigration came up, he would talk about, like, people like Hannibal Lecter are coming up here. It's like, what? What are you talking about? And it was so confusing until I saw a tweet from, like, a liberal account or something like that. And they basically said, guys, I figured it out. Donald Trump confused the terms asylum. For those who don't know, asylum is a term that means, like, a place where people seek refuge. Like, you would seek refuge in an asylum. Going back to, like, ancient Greece. Like, ancient Greece and ancient Rome. That's where the term asylum comes from. And asylum means a wide variety of things when you use it in that way. But, like, now, a lot of you may be familiar with the term mental asylum, which is a place where people who are mentally ill or had, like, other mental disorders would be taken to. The idea being that you would help them when they're at this place. You would seek asylum in there. And in immigration, asylum is where people from different countries will come to the United States and seek refuge for fear of, like, religious or political persecution. And if you seek asylum, then you have to be granted the ability to be in the United States. Like, whether or not you get to have, like, a home or whatever is irrelevant. The only thing it guarantees you is that you get to be in the United States. Because the idea is that you would be fearful of going home, because if you go home, you might get killed. So, it literally was like Donald Trump confused the terms mental asylum and political asylum. So, he believed that people, like, when, like, it literally seemed like when he was referring to, like, when he would see something on the news, it would say asylum seekers, he would think that they were talking about mentally ill people that are trying to come to the United States. And I didn't even think, like, I didn't even think that he actually thought that, but I thought it was funny that it would even be remotely possible that he did think that. And this debate literally proved that that is exactly what he means. Because he literally did that again here in the debate. And just like, this dude knows nothing about what he's talking about. And yet people are seriously thinking, like, people are not only stupid enough to put him in the office in the first place, but then people are stupid enough to even consider putting him back in office, and this guy just doesn't know what terms mean? And this whole debate, Trump kind of just showed, like, he was just completely unfocused. He had no clue what he was doing. He had no clue what he was talking about. Genuinely, it seemed like he was just, like, genuinely, a lot of people, like, made the claim about, like, Biden being mentally ill and, like, mentally deficient and stuff. That thing can literally be levied towards Trump in this debate. The dude was just bing-bonging all over the place. He would be asked a question about one thing, and then he would answer something completely different. And not in the typical way where a politician would like sometimes be like, well, I'll use this time to address not only the previous question, but I'll also use this time to address your question as well. Which is some things that has been done in debates in the past. But this didn't happen. Like, one example that I'm going to get into it later is like, they would ask him a question about Israel, and he would talk about Ukraine, and it's like, what are you doing? And much as typical with the conservative mindset, he would make up things, just completely out there things that do not exist in any relatively competent human being understanding, and would just say that. It just go completely like, yeah. This is one of the biggest problems with conservatives in general. Like, they love to like make up problems and then run on the solutions to those problems. And one thing that kind of was really weird was like when he would do this, like things that were debunked years ago. Like, there was one point where he was talking about like abortion, and he was like crying about, like, oh, in some states it's legal to abort the baby after it's born. And it's like, what? Look at the former governor of Virginia, not the current one, but the former governor of Virginia. He would do that. It's like, that is a talking point that was literally debunked in 2017. And as the moderator pointed out, as the moderator corrected him, like, there is literally no state in the union where it is legal to kill a baby after it is born. Because, let's think about it, like, guys, if a baby is born and then it gets killed, that's not an abortion. An abortion is when it's still a fetus. You troglodyte idiots. You idiots. You fucking morons. And at the same token, like, there was literally a point where he literally said, like, just flat out lie and be like, I've been a leader on IVF. It's like, since when? Since when have you been a leader on IVF? I do not think IVF and then go, Donald Trump. Like, in what world are you the leader on IVF? There's one point during the debate, it's like, I didn't even know what it was at the time, but then after I saw it later, I was like, oh, wait, that's actually way cool. But, like, it's literally, like, during the debate, at one point, Kamala was literally looking at Trump, and she literally said, this former president, and I didn't know what was happening. I knew that she was, like, definitely, like, trying to, like, I thought it was, like, her, like, trying to, like, catch her words because of whatever outlandish thing that he said, but it turns out that it might have been, she might have accidentally almost called him, like, not a slur, I was going to say a slur, but not a slur, but like a cuss word, because an old interview from the 2020 election was dug up, where it was like, where they asked the candidates, so what's your favorite curse word, and then Kamala said, I'm not going to answer that, but it starts with M, it ends with you know, so the insinuation was that she was going to say motherfucker. Twitch is like, yeah, at this point, just say it. Like, I mean, at that point, although I granted it probably would have been divisive if she did that, but like, honestly, that really would have been like a good thing to do, honestly, in my opinion. Because the thing is, we have this like viewpoint of politicians, like, oh, they have to be like prim, proper, blah, blah, blah. And like a lot of libs and Democrats still hold on to this position of like politicians, but like a lot of Republicans are at that point kind of like just don't fucking care. And it's like, and it's when we see when we see it break, it is like good. I like it. Bernie Sanders, remember, Bernie Sanders on the debate stage said a cuss word to another candidate, where it was like a candidate, where Tim Ryan was like, Bernie, you don't know that the Medicare for All bill does that, and then he's like, oh, I do know that, I wrote the damn bill, and it's just, like, yeah, sometimes just seeing that is interesting, like, and then Beto O'Rourke is known for having 2 famous F-bombs during his political career, where after he nearly beat Ted Cruz in the Senate run, he said, I'm so fucking proud of you guys, and then during when he ran for governor recently, he was like talking about how it was after the Uvalde shooting, and then he was like talking about how like he was talking about like how AR-15s are not built to be in normal America; they're built for the battlefield. And then literally during when he was discussing this, a person who was a Greg Abbott guy literally like started laughing at him, and he said, "It may be funny to you, motherfucker, but it's not funny to me." And it's like, yes, humanize our politicians. Yes, I just want to see that. I want to see a politician really just be like, dude, what the fuck is your problem? And Joe Biden had a similar thing. Where, like, when Trump was rambling in the 2020 election, he just said, will you shut up, man? And it's like, yeah, like, literally, if Kamala Harris literally just looked at him and just said, this motherfucker, like, what are you talking about? I would have, like, there were multiple times during the debate where I was literally just looking at Trump and just being like, what are you talking about? Like, I cannot fathom the world where people look at him and what he's saying, and it's like, this man is speaking logic and sense. It's like, in what world is what he is saying make any sense? And one thing that really showed that was when he brought up the literal Haitian racism. Like, where he literally was trying to bring up, like, I mean, if you don't know, it's very unlikely that you don't know, but, like, the Haitian racism that has been going on, where a lot of people are claiming that Haitians are, like, eating, like, as Trump said, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. It's like, what are you talking about? Think about it. Like, think about it. You're literally sitting here watching this debate, and you're the guy who wants to be the leader of the free world is literally just going, they're eating the dogs and cats. Like, what are you talking about? And literally, Kamala Harris literally just laughed at him. Like, just think about it, where you, like, say something on the stage, and then the only response you have is literally just be like, to be laughed at. And it, again, since Trump is all over the place, it just makes no sense. Everything he says makes no sense. During this debate, he literally was, like, saying, like, Venezuela. Like, he was trying to, like, bullshit about, like, Venezuela. Like, they're bad and gross, and they're coming over here. It's like, Trump, there's literally an interview you did this year, no, scratch that, this month, where you were praising Venezuela, where you were praising Maduro, where you were saying that if you were to lose, you would move to Venezuela because Venezuela is safer than America. Like, what? Like, he literally just made up the fact, like, he literally just flat out lied, made up the fact that, like, worldwide leaders are just sending their criminals to America. And it's like, what are you talking about? What the actual fuck are you even fucking talking about? No, scratch that. There's actually one more thing that really was like, it's like, oh my god. This is just, hearing, when I heard this, I was literally just like, what the actual fuck are you talking about? Where he said she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. It's like, do you hear yourself? And I don't want to keep harping on this, but, like, his analysis makes no sense. His viewpoint makes no sense. During one debate, like, very early on in the debate, he almost had a point against Kamala. He almost had a point. There was almost a point where he actually could have given a criticism to Kamala. He almost had one. Where he was trying to say, like, very early on, he was trying to say, like, he tried to make the point that Kamala, like, he's like, she has no ideology. She ran on this thing. She ran on that thing. And now she's this thing. Now she's this thing. Where he was trying to do a thing where it's like a flip-flopper. Where it's like, she ran on one thing during 2020, and now she's campaigning on something completely different in this cycle. He even tried to make the point that she was borrowing some of his ideology to the point where he even tried to get a zinger in saying, like, he wanted to send her a MAGA hat. Again, he almost had a point. And then he immediately destroyed it by claiming that she was a Marxist communist. And it's like, what are you saying? Does she have a coherent ideology or not? Which is it? Is she a diehard Marxist that it believes in literally 100% everything what Karl Marx said? Or is she a flip-flopper that goes to every random political viewpoint ever? Bing, 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 bing. He tries to cry about, like, oh, why aren't the people who I sent to go try to overthrow the government, why can't they roam free when also I'm also the law and order president and I love the police? Again, this is weird. He runs on, oh, Kamala Harris wants to defund the police, but then also she used the police to suppress the protesters. It's like, what is this world? Why? This is insane. Just the idea that he could say one thing 1 second and then say the next thing the next second. And that so many people are fucking brain dead that they look at him and go, yep. This, I will follow this man forever to the day I die. It's like, how? And that's another problem that I have with, like, analysis of the debate. It's like how they do good in the debate and how they do bad. It's like it really just depends on how they do in the debate, not really what they say, what they do. But I'm a little more focused on what they actually say and do because that matters a lot. If a presidential candidate goes on a debate stage and makes a outrageous claim, then it's like, yeah, I don't think that person can really be trusted. And Trump has makes 10,000 outrageous claims a day, a second. Like, dude, he literally makes the claim, on the debate stage, made the claim that he's respected by Volodymyr Zelensky. When it's like, dude, Zelensky hates you, objectively hates you. If I remember correctly, I think he's endorsing Kamala. One of the big things that is really interesting is just, like, it seems that Kamala's strategy in this debate was truly, literally just let him talk and dig his own grave. let him tie his own noose. Like, and that's basically what he did. She just let him talk. Like, because another thing is, like, again, one of the elements where he could have had a criticism could have landed, but it doesn't land for a multitude of reasons. One, it doesn't land because he immediately jumped on her being a Marxist, like, communist. And then the second end, it doesn't work because a lot of people want that. Like, the fact that she doesn't have a set ideology. They want a politician like that. They want a politician that is malleable. They want a politician that can change ideologies on a whim. And due to the fact that she has a very vague ideology, people from all across the political spectrum can come to her campaign and be supportive of her. Dude, she has the endorsement of fucking Dick Cheney. And also the endorsement of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Think about that. The tent is so big, she has socialists and neocons in the same tent. Meanwhile, Trump's tent is fascists and fascists. Like, I mean, honestly, this really does... I mean, I'm trying not to be super, like this, but, like, this really does seem like a 2008 election, right? Like, quite literally, this seems like almost borderline the exact same election. The only difference is that while McCain had, like, some sort of, like, relative understanding... Like, I mean, McCain is definitely, like... Would he be considered an ideologue? I don't know if he was necessarily an ideologue even back then, but, like, he definitely seemed a lot more set in his ways. Meanwhile, Obama was, again, like, kind of, like, running on just generic hope and change, not really necessarily, like, giving a explicit, coherent political ideology in the front, and Kamala's doing the same. Like, she's campaigning on change and fixing things, but she doesn't really necessarily have a set ideology. She's a technocrat, and that's where things are. Like, that's where a lot of major Democratic politicians are. They're technocrats. They'll change their ideology on a whim if it means that they'll have a chance to win. One day they can be super progressive firebrands, and the next day they can be, like, borderline the exact same as, like, moderate Democrats. That's how you play the game, and that's how you win. That's quite literally what political consensus was back in the 90s, where you run to the fringe in the primary, and then you run to the general, like you run to the middle in the general election. That's literally what's called, like, the general election pivot. The only difference is that Kamala doesn't have a pivot because she didn't run in the 2024 primary. Again, it's why I'm not, like, really, like, necessarily, like, that big on Kamala. It's like, I don't care about Kamala winning. I just care about Trump losing. That's all I care about. Trump and the GOP are legitimately threats to America, and they need to be stopped by any means necessary. And we live in a society where those any means necessary can be through democratic means. In fact, that's the primary reason. That's the primary thing that we can use to implement change. And yeah, we should use that tool to prevent fascists from becoming presidents. And I will say that that's the best choice of action. Given the past history, we need to use that tool, or else bad things will happen. And it's a thing that a lot of people seem to be realizing, because it really just seems like a lot more people are just really interested in Kamala. Again, due to the vagueness. I guess I should get into a little bit of the afterthoughts, because, like, those I kind of just, like, read off some notes from, like, during the debate that I had, and kind of, like, went with my, like, just train of thought. But these are some afterthoughts that I wrote down that are just that give somewhat of a analysis after the fact. Alright, so first of all, this is one that I just found interesting. I find it funny after all of the drama that we have been giving for the Commission on Presidential Debates. It's just, like, for those who don't know, I mean, if you're watching this channel, you probably know, because I've complained about it before, and if you know anything about third-party people, that's kind of a big thing that a lot of people complain about. Okay, so a lot of people, like, place the blame on, like, third parties not being able to get on the presidential debate stage thanks to the Commission on Presidential Debates, which is a joint venture of the Democrats and the Republicans that basically was founded in the immediate aftermath of 1988 to kind of give some favorability towards, like, the Democratic and Republican Party candidates in that election. I have a video about the history of presidential debates. I might include it here, or I might include it at the beginning. It'll be linked in the description, because, like, they do that now, where it's, like, where now the cards literally just link to the description. So what ended up happening was that the League of Women Voters took over as, like, because presidential debates weren't really necessarily, like, commonplace for a long while. It wasn't until, like, the 70s, like the late 70s, 1976, is, like, the first time where they actually started to hold, like, presidential debates, like, every so often. Like, I mean, they literally used to hold presidential debates, like, literally, like, once in a blue moon. And then in 1976, that's when they started, like, to officially have it so that it would be, like, every so often we will hold a debate. And the League of Women Voters were, again, the ones who were in charge of it. And one of the things that they did was they implemented some of the rules about how it went. And while Jill Stein, like, lied about how the rules... Like, and that's one of the big things. A lot of it is just because of lies. A lot of people, like, flat out lie about, like, how these rules got implemented. And here's what the rules were. Like, when League of Women Voters held it, the rules were basically very vague. Like, if they thought you were a serious candidate and you could theoretically win, then they'd let you on. Which is why in 1980 they allowed John B. Anderson to go on. And since there was no really big viable third-party candidates in the other two races after the fact, they didn't let anybody on. Then in 1988, Democrats and Republicans kind of banded together because there was like something that they wanted to do. They wanted to like do specific regulations about how the like ones would go, how the rules would go. I think one of the rules that they wanted to do was like they wanted to have like podiums that made it so that they were both the same height, so that they wouldn't have voters be like, oh, this person's tall or this person's too tall. And since the League of Women Voters didn't want to do that, they just pulled their support for the debates. And the Commission on Presidential Debates decided to do this. And then they implemented the rules about how third-party candidates needed to have a certain number of, like a certain percentage point and all this other stuff. And then those rules seemingly got more stringent after Ross Perot got the chance to be on. And basically every third-party activist have been complaining ever since that the CPD needs to like reform how they do the debates. I find it funny, after all that drama, literally the CPD just immediately falls apart because of the whole fiasco of Trump like bitching and pissing himself over the 2020 debate being quote-unquote not fair to him because he wanted to keep lying and spreading misinformation. Which has led to a bit of a problem because a lot of the ways that the debate has been done over the 32 years that the CPD debates have been run has been kind of stagnant, and we kind of just, I think it's just time we need a new format. Personally, I'd prefer to give the position to a nonpartisan organization, like Fair Vote, or maybe even Free and Equal Debates. Like an organization that literally just has no partisan bias, really, and will just, like, allow, like, things to go kind of normally. But, like, regardless, I think it's fine, like, just at this point. This is a good first step, but one thing I did like about this specific debate format was kind of similarly, it's just the fact that they actually did fact check people, because that was a big problem that a lot of people have been having, that there was no fact checking of previous debates. It was basically up to news organizations after the fact to fact check them, which they still do, but during the debate they did allow like fact checks to go on during the debate. Trump would say something very outlandish, and then they'd be like, that's not true at all. What? And the idea of the mics being muted was a good idea, but there's a bit of a problem because I really didn't get that concept, because there were multiple times in debate where Trump literally would interrupt Harris and the mic seemingly wasn't cut. Now, I think some of it is because like Trump would immediately jump into his rebuttal time, even though he wouldn't ask for a rebuttal time. He wouldn't like get permission to do a rebuttal time. He would just immediately start talking, and then they would, instead of saying, hey, shut up, you fucking shut up, instead of saying that, they just turn the mic on and just let him talk for multiple times. It's literally just like, that never happened with Kamala. Kamala never got the chance to interrupt Trump for anything he said. I think there was literally a point where she literally was talking and the mic was cut and they were literally just like, move on. Even though she was saying, I think I need to get a chance to rebut that. And like, no, we're moving on. Which just led me to theorize that the media 100% backs Trump. Like, the media 100% wants Trump to win. They want him to win, and they're backing him. I was skeptical when I saw this like posted on like Dem Twitter or whatever, but now I'm just kind of like openly like, yeah, this just seems like it makes no sense. This debate proved it. The fact that they literally just kept letting Trump interrupt Kamala multiple times in the debate, just completely counteracting the whole point of the fucking cut mics. Like, it's like, what's the point if you're gonna let him interrupt anyways? And they point out how previous debates they wouldn't fact check Trump. And yeah, and how a lot of media bias really seems to be focusing heavy on like just bashing Dems. Like, they would talk a lot about Joe Biden's problems, they talk a lot about Kamala's problems, they wouldn't really talk a lot about Trump's problems. And we all know, like, during the 2016 election, Donald Trump was like favored by the media because he was like ratings gold. I made a whole video where I talked about how that was the case. And it's like, conservatives like to pretend that that's not the case, but like, it's pretty obvious the case. Like, they even went so far as to try and pretend that the media is actually like backing Kamala. They're backing Kamala. Sure, maybe like some pundits might be backing Kamala, but like the media apparatus itself is backing Trump. But one thing that they like to use to prove that that's not the case is because, they fact check Trump all the time. They didn't fact check Kamala during the debate. It's like, well, that's because Kamala didn't lie during the debate. Like, what are you talking about? That's because she didn't lie. Like, it's the same thing where it's like conservatives cry and piss themselves about like, the TOS of these websites bans conservatives. It's like, then stop doing things that break TOS. Like, how come whenever these misinformation things keep popping up, they only pop up on conservative tweets? They don't pop up on liberal tweets. They don't pop up on socialist tweets. They don't do this. It's like, because they don't lie. They don't lie. Well, because they don't lie. They don't spread misinformation. Like, like, libs are dumb and stupid. Yeah, socialists are the based ones, but on a broad level, they don't lie. Like, they're like tout the capitalist bourgeois, but like they won't like explicitly lie. Their analysis is just stupid. But conservatives will just flat out fucking lie, spread misinformation, and then they get confused. Like, why is the misinformation people trying to hurt our accounts? It's like, because you spread misinformation. And your candidate was fact-checked on the stage because you kept fucking lying. No, the governor of Virginia is not telling people that once the babies are born, they'll figure out what to do after the fact, in the sense of like aborting it. No, Haitian immigrants are not massively eating dogs and cats everywhere. No, mental asylum people are not coming to the United States in droves. That's not happening. But after the fact, they have to pretend like, oh yeah, it's like I saw the Wikipedia page where it's like fact checkers fact check both Kamala and Trump after the debates, so that at least people think, oh yeah, well they fact checked both Kamala and Trump during the debate, so they both must have lied. It's like, okay, like literally, this is literally the contrast of it. It's like it's like their fact check sites will literally be like, Donald Trump claims Haitians are eating cats. That's not remotely true. But then meanwhile, when it's like Kamala says, like, talks about Trump's tariff plan, and it's like, Donald Trump did not actually say that he supports a sales tax. So technically it's not true. It's like, that's not what she said. She is making the point that Donald Trump's tariff plan would be the equivalent of a sales tax, that it would implement a sales tax. It would effectively implement a sales tax due to the fact that he is literally trying to do a 100% tariff plan that would literally raise the prices of foreign-made goods massively, which would effectively be a sales tax. That's what she said. And that's why it's like kind of weird. It's like, yeah, for her lies, you gotta like bend over backwards, you gotta like twist things around, you gotta like finagle to like make things like, but it's like, with Trump, it's literally just like, oh yeah, he just says this objectively fake thing, and yeah. It's like, are we not going to acknowledge that part? Like, those are vastly different things. Like seriously, that is just insane that it's a thing. Otherwise, this debate was kind of boring, to be honest, because, while I was watching the debate, it was just boring, because, like, there's not much for me there. I see brain-dead conservative dipshits on one side, and I see liberal who will not really even counteract most of what he says, but really only just barely scratch the surface of criticizing him. Like, it's like the same thing with like they brought up immigration during the debate, and it's like, yeah, Kamala and him like kind of have very somewhat similar immigration plans. Meanwhile, well, Trump's is different because like he literally just wants to like deport all non-white people. That's what he wants to do effectively. Meanwhile, Kamala, she just wants to implement some like stricter border patrol, but like the fact that she okay, I guess I have to get to that point later, but like rather than acknowledging the actual problem with immigration that neither of them will address, neither of them are going to address the actual problem of immigration, which is when the United States implements its regime change policies and imperialism across the world. Like Haiti, this is the problem. Like Donald Trump says Haitians are coming into this country and eating dogs and cats. Kamala is not going to turn around and then go, well, you see, this is not only racist, incredibly fucking racist, but like also we need to acknowledge this problem because the reason why Haiti is in the situation it is now, why there's a lot of Haitian immigrants coming to the United States, is because the United States has been destabilizing Haiti for so fucking long that it is literally a failed state purely because of the United States. The United States has kicked out its president twice and literally is directly responsible for the recent assassination of one of their prime ministers. But we can't talk about that fact. We much instead rather talk about the plan of like, oh, how are we going to fix this quote-unquote Haitian immigration problem? But it's like, if you actually fix the problem at its source, then we'll actually get a solution. It's the same thing with a lot of other issues. Crime, rather than addressing the root problem of crime, poverty, you're going to fight over who's going to hire more police officers. The difference between me and other like lefties is that I don't expect Kamala to do this. I have no ill will. I have no claim to think that Kamala or the Democratic Party as a whole is going to address this problem. They're not. If they were, they would have done it by now. but neither is the Republicans. They're in fact going to make the problem 10 times worse. So, yeah. And I guess with that, we'll just acknowledge the results. Yeah, no shit, no duh. Kamala Harris definitely won the debate. Not really due to anything of her own strength, but again, purely because her opponent was just so fucking garbage. Quite literally. That's literally the only reason why she won. Her strat was let the egotistical brain-dead friend of a pedophile dig his own grave and basically run on platitudes outside of that fact. And it's the same thing with their final speeches. Her final speech was literally just platitudes. And yeah, that's just, she's basically just running on platitudes. And honestly, I think that'll make some headway, because here's the thing. That's what people want. That's the truth. A lot of American voters, they don't give a shit about policies. They don't give a shit about anything. They only care about platitudes. They like the idea of a politician getting things done. It's one of the reasons why Trump, quote unquote, was popular. They're like, oh, it'll get her done, get it done. He got it done, they got it done. They don't acknowledge what they got done. They don't acknowledge what they did. They don't acknowledge any policies. They just like the idea of a politician, quote unquote, getting it done. And that's what Kamala is doing. Kamala is giving the vibes and the ideas of, oh, a politician that will get it done, get things done, change things, make things better. That's what it is. Running on the vague idea of a politician that is new, gonna bring change. And a lot of people like that. I've seen a ton more openly pro-Kamala Harris signs massively ever since the change. I have seen literally. I use this to kind of get like an understanding of I know this isn't necessarily the best because I kind of live in a relatively blue area, but this is a fact. I have seen, I point out this. I've seen a lot of political memorabilia for a lot of politicians, but I've never once seen a Joe Biden. I didn't see a Joe Biden like sticker or anything in this state until very recently when I started exercising and going on walks in the neighborhood. And I saw Pearson with a Joe Biden thing. But ever since Kamala Harris was the nominee, I've seen a ton of Kamala Harris signs. I've seen a ton of support for Kamala. Look at her crowds. You've seen her crowds, right? She has massive crowds. I know it's yeah, there are a lot of those people also turn out to vote for Biden. It's yeah, but this is the thing. It seems more people are genuinely interested in voting for Kamala Harris than voting against Trump. Even though that is generally kind of similar numbers, I would assume, a lot more people who voted for Joe Biden, they didn't vote for Joe Biden. They voted to end Donald Trump's tenure. That's what they voted on. Meanwhile, more people are genuinely excited to vote for Kamala Harris. Now, there's a lot of reasons why that is, and a lot of it really does stem from the fact that she'll be the first woman president. She'll be the first woman of color to be president. She'll be the first person president of Indian descent. She'll be the first black woman president. There are a lot of things that are exciting about that. And that's basically, policy-wise, you're going to get basically similar things to other Democratic presidents. Relatively socially liberal policies and, generally she'll be fine on a lot of social issues, but economically she'll be pretty much relatively the same with Washington consensus politicians in the past. Although maybe with a left-wing electoral base, maybe she'll be a bit more noticeably left-wing on some economic policy, but otherwise generally still a capitalist, generally still a relatively in the Zionist bubble, it's this thing, and it's stupid because Trump will literally say things on the stage and it's that makes her 10 times more appealing. I would love if she was an anti-Zionist Marxist. That would be awesome. I would love that. If that were the case, as one of the biggest proofs that I could use. If anybody tries to say oh, but she's a Marxist, or she's a communist, or she's anti-Zionist or whatever, she hates Israel. It's guys, if she were any of those things, I would have been 100% supportive of her the second that I ever saw her. I would be I would literally exclusively wear Kamala Walls merch. I would exclusively go out and wear everything. I would go out and hammer signs into other people's yards. I would do that. But that's the thing. She's not. She's just an average normie Dem. And that's one of the fucking craziest things. Again, the idea that people look at fucking Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and look at that and go, these guys are the vanguard of fucking communism or whatever. And it's the fact that you're looking at these people and thinking that these guys are radical or divisive or anything. These guys are some of the most basic milquetoast politicians I could think of. And that's why people like them. And that's why they're ultimately going to win the election. Because a lot of people like that more than they like what Trump is getting, who obviously lost the debate. And it's true, because you point this out. Literally no person who doesn't support Donald Trump thinks he won the debate. Everyone else, like even to the point where Republicans themselves acknowledge that he lost the debate, but won't say it. They won't say that he lost the debate, but they'll openly acknowledge the fact that he lost the debate. Literally, one of the first things that happened was that they said, well, if you want to know who lost the debate, who's the first one to back out? And then Trump immediately decides that he backs out of the debate. He doesn't want to do another debate. Ding! He lost the debate because he knows he sucks at it. During the last part of the debate, he kept saying, where's Joe Biden? Where's Joe Biden? Why? It's like, dude, Joe Biden's not your opponent. The end. He's not the opponent anymore. Stop running against him because he's not the opponent. Like, literally outside of deep red areas that are just 100% going to back the Republican Party no matter what, no one else is backing Trump. Like, the media can make up all they want of all these, like, things that say, like, oh, well, this thing will actually happen with Trump, or this thing will happen with Trump. Like this, because they like to do the thing where it's like, oh, black voters are secretly going to Trump. It's like, no, that's not happening. What are you talking about? I know I have a bias, but, like, it just seems really, really blatant that Trump just doesn't have an electoral base. He's gotten 10 times more radical, which is siphoning. And this is the truth. Like, this is the thing. In order to win a presidential election, you need the support of normal people. Nobody who is normal supports Donald Trump. Not a single human being who is normal backs him. Not a single person. Because in order to support Donald Trump, you have to ignore a lot of things. You have to ignore the fact that the guy has literally no fucking clue what he's talking about. You have to ignore the fact that this dude has had multiple criminal investigations that are 100% verifiably true. In fact, you have to ignore the fact that this dude was literally best friends with a child sex trafficker. You have to ignore the fact that he has said on multiple occasions that he wants to suspend the Constitution of the United States. You have to ignore everything to even think, I will back this man. You have to literally sell your soul to Satan to even think about backing him. You have to ignore the fact that he's not even fucking religious. He's literally said on a stage to Christians, he is not Christian. You have to literally hear that fact and then go, this guy is more evangelical than Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. You have to sit there while the dude literally cheats on multiple wives. Like, he's cheated on every single wife that he's had. Melania was a side chick to his previous wife, and now there's a rumor that Trump literally has a side chick for Melania. Like, this is the weird thing, because there are a lot of people who back Trump, and then they say, this is my number one issue, and it's like, Trump did nothing. Like, there's this random guy, this random fucking, like, bumfuck redneck guy, who's just like, my big issue is the Federal Reserve, and Trump's gonna get into office and finally fix the Fed. It's like, did you forget the fact that he's been in office for 4 years and he did nothing about the Federal Reserve? Because why would he? He's a capitalist. He supports the fucking Federal Reserve. You fucking moron. Well, but the Trump economy was doing good. Well, except for the time where the economy was doing because of the literal plague that was going on. Did you forget that part? Did you forget about the fact that he literally let 30,000 Americans die? No, 300,000 deaths, sorry. 300,000 Americans died because Trump mishandled the COVID pandemic? We're the country that was supposed to do the best under the COVID pandemic, and we did the worst because he was so ineffectual to even acknowledge that COVID was a serious threat. Well, at least he's a president that supports America first. Well, unless you ignore the fact that he supported Israel throughout the entirety of his presidential campaigns, and continues to support Israel every day, and also ignore the fact that he also takes money from Saudi Arabia. Also ignore the fact that he supports Russia and then gave them Ukraine. Like, ignore all that fact. Ignore that fact. This is the thing. You have to literally ignore everything about him to even think about supporting him. But Americans are stupid, so it is possible that he could still win. But I really don't think so. Especially considering, I mean, again, remember, I'm in North Carolina. I've been seeing tons more Kamala stuff than I've seen of Trump stuff. Because, yeah, granted, again, I'm in a blue area. I'm a relatively blue area. But I remember in 2016, I saw a lot of Trump stuff. And in 2020, 20? I don't remember if I saw a lot of Trump stuff in 2020. I didn't see a lot of campaign merch at the time until like literally like the day of the election or whatever. But yeah, like, I'm just saying, I don't really see Trump winning. With a lot of people pointing out, if Kamala wins NC, he basically can't recover. I mean, he can. I did look at like just some hypothetical like matchups that I could see, but like, I mean, it's a little hard to like really go 100%. We'll have to wait and see when the actual election kind of rolls around and like a little bit before, like with the polling and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click that bell to notify when a future video of mine comes out. And if you want more content from me, consider supporting me on Patreon.